Hey everybody, this is Connor here for Connor's English Corner number 7 for December 4th, 2017. After last week's exciting episode with all of that information, this week we have a deck discussion, actually. This week I'm going to be talking about BanG, just the Poppin'Party deck, red-blue, focused on the majority of the booster pack's cards, and the trial deck for the set. I might do glitter green at some point in the future. But basic deck overview. The deck is fairly simple. You focus on setting up a wall at level 1 and just hoping you can beat out all of your opponent's characters. You also have a finisher that is very light on resources, so it's fairly easy to set up. The downside is that the deck has very little selective advantage. Your brainstorm only draws, unfortunately, and since you're a sort of wall-based level 1, you're not doing a whole lot of selective plussing with a combo at level 1. So unfortunately, there's a little bit of issue there with the deck, and you have very little deck control, outside of just, you have a couple of cards that mill you through, but not a ton, and one of them's not searchable, really, so that can be an issue a little bit. You sort of have to hope your deck doesn't just completely screw you over on what you like when you draw your climaxes. But for the most part, it's still a very functional deck. You still do have cards to get out of those situations, just not as many of them as the best decks in the format do. So yeah, let's just get on into the deck list. So this is the list that I've got put together. We've been testing some stuff very similar to this at my locals lately. It turns out the 1/1 tie wall is a lot more effective than you would expect it to be. So the biggest issues, as I said, were the lack of just sort of like deck control and selective plussing. So I've put the 1/0 event and the climax combo that works with it in there. If you don't really know how those work, we'll go over those when we get to the individual cards. I'm still not really completely sure on the level 3 lineup and the level 2 lineup. Right now it's just very, very simple and straightforward. But also with the lack of toolboxing the deck has, sometimes the one-ofs are a little iffy. You don't really get them as often as you might like. So those might be better off just in other slots, just sort of thickening out other lines. But this is what we've got for now. It's been working fairly well. Even against the better decks, it actually stacks up. It's maybe not favored against stuff like Attack on Titan and Sword Art, but it stacks up very well to them. It can give them a run for their money. You'll also notice that a ton of these cards are trial deck cards. So this is one of, if not the cheapest, I guess high tier decks that you can probably build in English. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and get on into the individual cards here. First up, we have the Twinkle Star Kasumi. This is from the booster pack. It's whenever it goes from your stage to your waiting room, you can pay 1 and clock yourself to salvage basically anything that's not glitter green or Asuka. So this one's nice. It's since you pay when it dies, you can field it turn 1 and still get your plus because it generates its own stock. So I really like cards like that. Unfortunately, you do lose to stock bombs and clock bombs. Tends to be a recurring theme with these things. Just really nice because you can field them turn 1, but there is always that issue when your opponent has stock bombs and stuff. So AOT and Sword Art builds that play those are problematic. Not all of them do. Other decks with stock and clock bombs, occasionally Kantai and Cinderella Girls, but there aren't a ton of them out there, and there aren't a ton of really good ones out there, so it's probably not the biggest issue in the world. You also have 2500 with this card, so fairly big. So yeah, we're running a couple of that because it does give us a selective plus at level 0. We're only playing 2, just because there's a blue card that does a very similar thing, and the deck kind of needs the blue color fixing a little bit. But yeah, so we're playing 2 of that just as a level 0 plus. Next we have Poppin'Party Saya Yamabuki. This is our global 500. And its second ability is that whenever you play an act ability, you can give a character 500 power. So on offense, really the only time this is triggering is when you brainstorm. But the 500 matters a lot less on offense. It's mainly here for our backups, so that when we play a backup, we get an additional 500 power that we can either split or just use to turn our costless backups into 2k backups, since unfortunately BanG Dream was not fortunate enough to get one of those in their first set. So yeah, usually this will just sit in the back, make our level 1s 8k or 8-5, and we can get extra power off of our backups when we need to. This is potentially the most important card in the deck, the Self-Introduction Kasumi. It's a brainstorm. Unfortunately, it's only a draw brainstorm, so you just draw a card for every climax you reveal, which isn't a huge help, but better than nothing, I suppose. And then the other ability is just about our only climax out besides just playing them, which is pay 1 and discard a climax to grab any character out of our waiting room. So this is good for just selective hand filter, but being costed is a little bit of an issue, because we do have a lot of other costed cards in the deck. Next we have Starbeat Rimi Ushigome. This is just a free runner. So it's just in here as another plussing level 0 slot. We want to get as much value out of our level 0s as possible. Getting as many attacks as possible so we have enough stock going into level 1 to do everything that we need to do. Starbeat Tai Hanazono is our last level 0. This is very similar to the first level 0 I showed. When it becomes reversed in battle, we can pay 1 and put this card into our clock. Look at top 2, choose 1, put it into our hand, put the rest in the waiting room. So this does put 1 card in our waiting room, which can sort of help us dig into our level 1 events to try to get them into the waiting room, since we're checking top 2. We can grab a climax if we absolutely have to, and then we can use the brainstorm to pay 1 and discard it to grab something else. Since this puts itself into clock, it also acts as sort of like a guaranteed blue color fix if you draw into this. So that's really nice, because there's not nearly as much blue in the deck as there is red. Other than that, it just gets a card to replace itself. Helps you dig. Yeah. Plussing level 0. We just want a lot of plussing level 0s so we can field characters and not get punished for it. So our first level 1 is the Happy Christmas Kasumi. I don't know why it's Happy Christmas and not Merry Christmas, but you know, whatever. So the 1/0/45, up to twice per turn when you play another character, it gains 1,000 power. So it can be up to like 65 on offense, which is same like base power as stuff like Eren and basically Yuki are gonna have. So it's fairly decent. Those just have other ways to pump themselves. But you also have a climax combo. When you attack, if the climax is in play, you can grab the 1/0 event, something in the warehouse, from your waiting room, and return it to your hand. And that event lets us salvage more cards, so it basically is a delayed selective plus from waiting room. So there is the issue that it's delayed, but it also gets around anti-salvage, since we're not grabbing a character, we're grabbing the event. So you can still use this against anti-salvage. So that's fairly nice. You also don't have to reverse, so you just have to attack, so it doesn't really matter that you're not giant. Yeah, so I mean, we're also only playing 3 of this because it's not our main goal to field a bunch of these. We only have 3 of the event anyway. So usually what's going to happen is that you're going to field like 1 of these, just in your last slot if you like don't have enough stock to play all your 1/1s, or just don't have 3 1/1s. This can go in your last slot, and you can play the climax combo and get a card out of it. So it's more just here as a secondary level 1, unlike most decks level 1 climax combos. But yeah, and it's also fairly big. As long as you're not fielding multiples, you can always just field this first, and get like your maximum power, so you can kill something. Next we have High School Student Arisa. If you have another card named Self-Introduction Kasumi, this gains the ability, when this card's battle opponent becomes reversed, you can put the top card of your deck into your stock. So Self-Introduction Kasumi is the trial deck Brainstorm, the draw Brainstorm. Which is why we're playing 4 of that Brainstorm. just so we can always have one on our stage for cards like this that check for her, so they can gain their abilities. This is the other card that you're wanting to put in that third slot if you don't play the Kasumi combo in it. It just helps you get back stock after playing 1/1s, and a lot of our level 0 effects were costed with a stock. So this can just help us get stock back from that. Normally you're just gonna like maybe field one of this when you hit level 1 and kill off like a stray 0 or something to get that like little bit of stock. Then we have 3 copies of the Starbeat Arisa Ichigaya. It's just a vanilla 1500 counter. There's also a Childhood Tai counter. It's also just a vanilla 1015, also blue in the booster pack. So it doesn't actually matter which one of those you run, since we're not playing any cards that check for their second trait. But in the case that there's a level 0 that like bonds an event we don't play, that does require you to discard a bonsai trait, in which case this is the better backup. So yeah. Otherwise I just put it in here because it's trial deck, and if you're playing this you probably bought trial decks for the majority of the cards anyway, so you already have this. Yeah, this is a backup to keep our level 1s alive. Since our main focus is walling out the opponent, we just want to have those big lanes, and we can make up for maybe having to discard our climaxes to get other cards and stuff by opening up those direct lanes to still get extra soul push. Alright, and here's our main level 1 that we're playing 4 copies of. The Tai shows no interest in your weak level 1s. If you have the self-introduction Kasumi in your backstage, this gets plus 2000 power. I don't know if it's noteworthy or not, but this requires the Brainstorm to be in your backstage. The 1/0 Arisa did not. It just required it anywhere on stage. So you can't, like, front row your only Brainstorm with this, but you could with Arisa. I'm not sure when that's ever going to be relevant, but I figured I might as well mention it, since it seems like something easily skipped over. The card also has Character Encore, so you can discard a character to bring it back when it dies, which is very nice on a 1/1/8000. So since we're 1/1/8000, 85 if we have a global on board, we're really big. Yuki actually has to have the Married Life pump and the assist behind her and the climax in play, and be the 5th character played onto their board in order to kill you without tying. If it's like the 4th character or doesn't have the assist behind it, it can tie you. But it needs like every power boost like for that turn put into one Yuki to be able to kill a Tai, and it still loses if you play a counter. In fact, I think it ties with you if you counter a different lane and use like the 500 pump into the Tai that the Yuki is attacking. You tie it still. Aaron, to beat you, needs a full board of 5 characters, all of which have to be Aaron, Mikasa, or Armin. It needs the 1/0 global on board and rested, I believe, to beat you, and you still beat it with a counter. So it needs like the 2nd global also tapped, I think, and it probably still ties you at that point. So you can really note that these are both on side lanes. In middle lane, it's going to be harder to win against these decks because Yuki gains 1000 power from the Sleeping Knight's Brainstorm, and Aaron gains 1000 power from the Aaron Brainstorm. So don't try to contest middle against those decks. But the your side lanes, you can win fairly well. Sword Art is also a little harder because the 1/1 Asuna 8k is obviously also 8k base. So just an assist behind it ties you at 85. If they play the climax, they're 95, in which case you beat them with a counter. But if they Married Life, they're 10-5. So if you counter and put the act pump onto your tie, you still only tie them at 10-5 to 10-5. So that can be a little problematic. Now given you're still tying, but backup to tie is never really too great of a play to make. However, when they're or when you're swinging into them, they also have to have the backup. Um, Probably to tie. Well, no, because if you're, yeah, no, because if you play the climax, you're 9-5. If you do the act pump, you're 10. So a counter does beat you if they have the assist. Otherwise, it ties if they don't have the assist behind them. But so yeah, Tae versus Asuna is a bit weird. Though most people aren't really playing the Asuna, and if they are, they're not playing it at more than like 2 copies. So it's not something you're gonna have to worry about a ton or in multiple lanes, but it's worth noting. Any other deck, you're pretty much beating out, unless they're just pumping a ton of power. Tolovru can probably beat over you. Their Mikons are 55, 65 with Climax, 7k if they have an assist, 9k from the 1-1 boost. They would be 8-5 if they played Pucci Mikon. So Pucci Mikon, on a side lane only ties you, but Yami Pump beats you. But if they do that, if they swing with the Yami pumped lane first, you can counter and put the act boost on the other Tae, and you beat both lanes. If they attack with the Pucci boosted lane first, and you counter that, then you're only going to tie their Yami boosted lane. But that's still, I mean, you're playing one counter and killing 2 Mikons and blocking one of the searches, which is that's still fairly good. Especially since Tolover is known for being able to just sort of bust through anything with their level 1 combo. And any of their other characters probably just aren't. Well, I mean, they can still pump their other characters, but they're not going to. I don't think they ever would. 2-1 runes do give you problems if they're playing the Ren rune engine though, because those are just like 95 base and can be pumped pretty easily. Contact Collection, Taigaze are gonna struggle to get over you, since they only tie with a full board and a climax, and they don't have any extra way to pump power besides Shimakaze Kai. Shimakazes themselves are going to struggle to beat you. They need Shimakaze Kai just to force a counter. Haguro forces a counter from you, but you still actually beat it if you do have the counter. So you can see like having the counter is pretty important in a lot of these. Though anything that's not just these like level 2s or really big power lanes, you don't even need the counter for. So Tai just, it makes it really hard for your opponent, and they have to just put lots of resources into their board to be able to kill your Taies, especially if you put multiple Taies on the board. And in the scenario that they do actually kill your Tae, and like they just invest all this like playing Poochies to board and all this to kill your Tae, and then you just like discard a random 0 to bring the Tae back because it has character encore. So that's pretty nice. Tae is really good. Makes it really annoying for your opponent to be able to kill your board. And you do get that just inherent extra soul damage from direct attacking when you win field. So our level 2s, we play the Club Show Urisa. So this is just a backup, 25. When you play the backup, you can pay 2 to shuffle your waiting room back into your deck. So you basically just get a refresh without having to take refresh penalty. So it's fairly stock heavy. It's 3 stock total. So you're not going to be doing this all the time, but it'll save you very, very occasionally when you are in just one of those situations when you really need it. Which can happen with this deck just because you don't have like the best methods of deck control in the world. So sometimes you do just need to pay that 3 stock to get the free fresh. It's also a bigger counter than your other counter. So once you're in level 2 and your opponent might have a little bit bigger characters, this counter can put you up to like 11-5 instead of 10-5. So you potentially actually beat some early plays that are swinging into your Taes. Stuff like Kirito, if they don't have like Machine of Ice down. Probably opposing Bang Dream Christmas Sayas you beat. Just random things like that. A lot of level 2s this lets you beat fairly convincingly. So again, this deck is just like a lot of threatening with backups. Then we have the well-prepared Tai. There are actually just like a billion level assists in this set. I've chosen this one over the others because it can come down for 0 stock. On play, you just reveal the top card of your deck. If it's level 2 or higher, put it into your stock. There are a bunch of others. There's the Trial Deck Orisa level assist that is, it allows you to like rest it to give a character 1,000. There's a Booster Pack Orisa level assist that I don't quite remember what it does. There's like a Remy level assist. Or the Booster Pack Orisa one is on play, discard a climax, search your deck for a music character. There's a Booster Pack Orisa, or a Booster Pack Remy level assist that's red. I picked blue ones just for a little more blue color in the deck. But there's a lot of level assists, so just pick the one you like the best, honestly. I picked this one because it come down for 0 stock, which is nice for our end game. Also, like, the level assist, if you don't think you need the level assist, you also don't really need to play it, because your level 3s are giant even without one, and your level 1s only get 500 power from it. So you can actually just play something else instead of a level assist if you want to do that as well. There are some other cards I'll mention later in the like other options section that would do well with a level assist. So keep that in mind. But as far as this list goes, you can honestly take the level assist out for something else if you feel that's not necessary. So then we have Explosive Summer, Tai and Orisa and Kasumi. I love how it has all the characters' names in it, and then like Kasumi is just like way back there in the corner. But yeah, so this is when it becomes reversed. If the level of the card's battle opponent is higher than your opponent's level, you can put that character on the bottom of your opponent's deck. This is mainly just here for Darkness level 3s. Sword Art has Kirito, and they're also getting 2 more early plays in this later this month. So playing this is probably relevant for those. Persona comes out in February, but I don't really want to take stuff that far into the future in consideration when talking about these. Right now there's not a whole ton of giant early plays, but for the big ones like Darkness and the Sword Art ones, getting the Holy Sword Kirito and the Yuna and Xenon that are going to be in the next set later this month, it's just nice to have a way to remove them from board, just because they can get a little bit out of hand if you don't take care of them quickly. Especially Darkness. That's really the one I'm most concerned about when I include stuff like this in the deck. Attack on Titan has them, but you can't actually really remove them unless they're the Aaron Titan that you change into from the 2/1 Aaron when frontal attacked. You can actually probably just kill it with this. You might be able to kill the Aaron with this, honestly. If not, you can remove the Aaron Titan with this card. So then we have the Kasumi Toyama. This is our main level 3. Our end game is very interesting in this deck. I'll get into like the full combo when I talk about the other level 3 we're playing as well. But for this card, it's on play. You draw 2, discard 2, and then put the top card of your deck into your stock. So you don't cantrip off of it, but you effectively play the level 3 for 1 stock, which is useful. Since you can see its other effect is pay 4, having that 1 stock to play it is pretty nice. Second effect, we have a climax combo. When you play a card named Starbeat, if this is in your front row, you can choose a character in your hand with music or Asuka in its card name, play it to your stage, and this card, this Kasumi, gains 3,000 power. And the last effect is on attack, you can pay 4, put the top card of your deck into your waiting room, and deal X damage to your opponent, where X is equal to that card's level plus 1. So this might seem familiar from like Musashi, which also exists in like Kill la Kill on the level 3 Mako, and what other sets in English have that effect right now? Not a ton, actually, but Kill la Kill has it, Kantai has it. There has to be something else that I'm just like forgetting for no good reason, but you guys probably know the effect by now. Kantai is the one that made it really popular, but instead of doing it when the opponent cancels our damage, we're doing it when we attack. So it's actually just extra instances of damage that help us close out the game. The climax for this, the Starbeat, is in the booster pack as a red stock soul, but it's also in the trial deck as a book, as a blue book. So that's, you can play either one. I'm playing the red stock soul in this deck because we need stock for our pay 4 effect, but if you really want to play the book for some reason, go for it. I think the stock soul is a lot better though. So next we have Poppin'Party Kasumi Toyama. This is the trial deck level 3. During your turn, if you have 4 or more other music characters, this gains 5,000 power, and your opponent cannot play event cards or backups from hand. This is relevant against like Kantai because they can't compass you. Tolaru cannot darkness counter you. So this Kasumi can push damage that your opponent can't really stop. They also can't play backups like the well, your opponent can't play Sayaka's Wish. They can't play Leveling Bell. They can't play like a Free Fresh backup or something like that. So they really just can't do anything on these attacks that might help them live. So that's a nice effect. We're playing this for the second effect. When this is placed on stage from hand, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a music character, deal 1 damage to your opponent. It seems like not an amazing finisher, but so here's the full combo that we're going for here with the 2 Kasumi level 3s. You can do this if you either have 3 stock or 7 stock. 7 stock gets you 1 extra attack, basically. So if you play the 2 of the booster pack Kasumi, right? So we'll say you have 7 stock. You play the first one down to 5, you blind stock back up to 6. You play the second one down to 4, you blind stock back up to 5. You play the stock soul, so you stock soul to 6. And then both of your booster pack Kasumis have the climax combo that activates. Both of them. So the first one's going to activate, and you can play the trial deck Kasumi into your 3rd front row slot. And then reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a music character, you deal a damage to your opponent. Then you can use the other booster pack Kasumi's effect to play another copy of the trial deck Kasumi, just on top of where the other one was. So it's just going to remove the other one from board, but you get to reveal the top card of your deck again and deal another damage to your opponent. And then you get to attack. So you're at 6 stock. So you attack with the booster pack Kasumi, pay 4 to go down to 2, and deal some number of damage. Trigger check puts you at 3. Trial deck's trigger check puts you at 4, and then you can attack with the second booster pack Kasumi and pay 4 again to get another instance of damage and your attack. If you only have 3 stock, then what you do is same setup, but instead of playing the trial deck Kasumis on top of each other, you just play one over one of the booster pack Kasumis, because the climax combo is still going to resolve even if you play on top of it. Well, okay, so you play the climax, you resolve one of your Kasumis to play into the open slot, and then the second Kasumi is going to play on top of the booster pack Kasumi that already resolved, is what's going to happen. So you still get your 2 top checks, and now you have 2 trial deck Kasumis, and once both of them attack, you'll be at 4 stock, and you can use the booster pack Kasumi's effect. So you're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 instances of damage for 3 stock, or 7 instances for 7 stock. So the 6 for 3 is like really efficient. Unfortunately, it's not like amazing finish, but it's still very respectable. You're doing like one damage, 1 damage, 3 damage, 3 damage, probably average like 2 damage, and then 3 damage again. And then there's an extra like 2 thrown in there if you're doing the like double booster pack Kasumi at 7 stock. So it's a fairly threatening end game. So that's why those are the only 2 level 3s we're playing. We just want to be able to draw enough copies of them to do it. Then we have Something in the Warehouse. This is an event. It's a brainstorm. You reveal 3 cards from the top of your deck, put them into your waiting room. Choose a level X or lower character in your waiting room with music, trait, or Asuka in its card name. Return it to your hand. X is equal to the number of characters with music, trait, or Asuka that you reveal. So even if you completely whiff and just reveal all climaxes and events, you still get to salvage a level 0 or lower music character or Asuka. We're not playing any Asukas, so I'm just going to say music character. But say you reveal 2 music characters on your brainstorm, you can salvage a level 2 or lower music character. So this is sort of what gives us that selective card pulling. It's not actually a plus, but it gives us a way to pick what we're grabbing. rather than just relying on like draw brainstorm and stuff. The So this is also the event that the level 1 combo salvages. So when we attack with the level 1 Kasumi, we can add this from waiting room to hand. And then on the next turn, we can just play this to grab whatever we want. So it's effectively a salvage combo for the 1-0 Kasumi. It's just a little delayed. But this having mill 3 built into it is also very useful for the deck. Because it fills the waiting room for its own salvage effect. But it also just helps you get through the deck faster, because the deck just doesn't have a whole lot of controlled mill. Then we get our climaxes. So this is Starbeat. This is the combo. This is climax for the level 3 combo. It's a red stock soul. As I said, it also has a book version in the booster or in the trial deck. The stock soul though is what we're playing because it lets us do our combo at fewer stock. Also noteworthy. If you play the stock soul, you can, since the booster pack Kasumi combo and the climax itself both prime at the same time when you play the climax, you can choose whether you stock and give soul or whether you play the trial deck Kasumis first. If you play the trial deck Kasumis first, they will get the soul from the climax. But if you stock a red card before you play anything from hand, the Kasumis that you play from hand will not get the extra soul. So you can use that, say if you need to swing for 2, if like 2 is a better number to be attacking for, then stocking first is better. But if you do want to be swinging for 3, then you can play the Kasumis first, and they can swing for 3. So it's a little bit of damage customization there. Very, very useful. Last, we have Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. It's a door. It lets you salvage when you trigger it. Useful in this deck because we play backups. Any deck that wants a lot of backups, doors are fairly good in. Also combos with the level 1 Kasumi, obviously. So we're just playing it for the combo. So some other options that we can play in the deck. We've got a new start Saya. On play, you can mill 2. If there's a climax, give a character 1500 power. This gives you a little more mill in the deck that you don't have otherwise. And it's also on play, pay 1, discard 1 to add a music character from waiting room to hand, and then give a character 1000. So the power pump helps you get over stuff like your opposing 1/1 Asunas and things like that. But really, it's just here as more of like a selective card grabber and mill power. Just gives you 2 utility things that you don't really have a whole lot of otherwise. Next, we have Good at Housework Saya. This is just a beater. You can play this over the runner if you want. If you like Saya more, I like Saya more personally as a character. I don't know that I'd play the card. It does gain a level, so it does get around like stock bombs and clock bombs and stuff. But I think the runner in general is just better since it also lets you dodge on reverse combos. If you hit your opponent into level 1 and just have a runner on board, you can deny your opponent's combos long enough for you to be able to play your 1/1 ties to board to then deny them further. But yeah, so if your opponent does hit level 1 first, runner's better. And if you hit level 1 first, you're obviously just going to be fielding ties and blocking them that way. But yeah, it exists. Runner's probably better. Sparkling Kasumi. This is a costless hand fix. On play, you reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a music character or the 1/0 event that we play, you can put it into your hand and then discard 1. So costless discard out is really good. It digs 1 deeper for our combo stuff and our like brainstorms and our 1/1 tie. Because I didn't really stress this earlier, but it's really important that you have the brainstorm by level 1. Like, super important, because all your level 1s kind of need it, apart from the climax combo. So this lets you dig a little deeper for it. Doesn't do much other than that. Gives you like a costless ditch out. But I think, generally, you don't really care a whole ton that you're doing, like, pay 1 ditch a climax for the brainstorm Kasumi, since you get to pick what you're grabbing off of it. But it's costless, yeah. There's not a whole lot else to say about it. For level 1s, I don't really know whether these would go over the climax combo or these would go over the stock charge Orisa. But if you wanted a different level 1 that's also just sort of a wall, but costless. High School Girl Saya is probably the best one. It can't frontal attack a higher level card. Um, this is really bad against Attack on Titan because of Mikasa Field Swap, but it does fairly well against everything else. Not a whole ton of decks play like a lot of level 2s. Um, there's a couple other 6/5s in the set. There's an Orisa 6/5 that like bottom decks itself, and I think you have to have at least 3 other music characters before you can play it to stage. That one's blue. This one's red. Blue might be better in the long run, but I put the Saya on here. You can play any 6/5. There's also an Ellie clone that gains 500 power for each other music character. So that's effectively 6/5. It's also just going to be 7 on global. So these things aren't as big as your wall, but they're costless. I don't personally think I would play these just because I'd rather have like the utility level ones outside of my giant wall slot. Because these things are still going to be dying to like Eren level 1 and Yuki's and all those things that have a lot of power and kill things. These are just not big enough walls to deal with that. Which is why I generally think wall decks aren't very good in English, but this one gets big enough. This one gets bigger than most. So next we have Poppin'Party Rimi Ushigome. This is a level 1 bomb. Very basic card, but it has a neat use in this deck. It beats 1/1 Asunas, which none of your other cards convincingly do. But B, Eren. Generally, if you can't get 3 1/1 ties on board, Eren can just like eat your last lane and get a free plus, like a free +2 or whatever. But if you play a level 1 bomb to your last lane, then they lose their Eren if they reverse you, and they just only get their maneuver gear. Which, it's not like the end of the world for the Attack on Titan player, but it's an inconvenience for sure, and makes it harder for them to loop combo on you. Which is already really hard for them to do because your characters are giant. But yeah, I don't have it in the list right now because I don't think it does like a ton for the deck outside of that. But if you're playing somewhere, there's like a lot of Erens or like a lot of 1/1 Asunas or a lot of just like big level 1s. Rimi, you can play Rimi and maybe break through some walls and stuff. So that's worth mentioning. Next we have a Scene at Sunset Rimi. This card is usually played in like standby builds, which we're not playing standby, obviously. But I figured I'd still mention the card. It's a change. At the beginning of your climax phase, it has a really weird change cost, but it's you pay 1, discard 2 music characters, specifically music characters, so you can't discard like climaxes, which is unfortunate. And then you return the Rimi to your hand at the beginning of your climax phase. And then you play Under the Moonlight, Kasumi and Rimi from your waiting room onto its stage position. So Under the Full Moon, Kasumi and Rimi. This is really funny because the card's name is Under the Full Moon, but the actual card text on the change says Under the Moonlight. So I don't know if that's been errated yet or not, but I just now noticed that. I do guarantee you this is the right card that it changes into. If it has not been errated yet, then it will be soon, hopefully. But it probably already has been. They just haven't updated like card list yet. So the level 3 it changes into is 11k base, since all of your characters are always going to be music. On play from hand or by a change effect, you can discard a card from your hand to put the top card of your clock into your stock. So this effectively comes out for 1 stock. No matter how you play it, just effectively comes out for 1 stock. It also dodges anti-heal, if anti-heal is like a big threat to you. And then at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, you can pay 1, choose one of your music characters and this card and exchange them as stand. So it's a field swap like Mikasa. This one, also 11k, also healer, also field swap. This is actually just exactly Mikasa. It's just in a deck that's not as oppressive, I guess. It also has a worse change. Mikasa's change cost is really good, and it's, well, because it's Encore Step. Encore Step changes are always cheaper than Climax Phase changes. So Mikasa is generally easier to use. Um, yeah, Mikasa also can't be anti-changed the turn you're going into her, because you're attacking as a level 2, and then you bring out the level 3 afterwards. However, this is a lot bigger during the turn you change. Or like during the turn you're going for the change, because you can just change into your 11k and swing out as an 11k instead of needing to live until Encore Step. So there's upsides and downsides to each of them, I suppose. But yeah, this card's pretty good. It's probably better than people give it credit for. You do have to discard a card to heal, which is not the easiest thing in the world, but you're also one stock. Who knows? It's worth mentioning. You wouldn't play it in this deck just because there's not enough room. But if you changed your level 3 lineup to not take up like 8 level 3 slots, then you could probably fit this in as like a healer or whatever. Speaking of healers, here's another healer. This also gives you another level 2 game option, since the list I posted didn't really have a whole lot of level 2 game. So this is minus a level if you have 4 or more music characters, which is like the easiest early play condition in the world. It's only 10k power though, like even with its condition for 2 or more music characters. So it's really small, and it dies to like everything, but it heals. It's an early play heal. It swings for 2 soul. If you can manage to protect it, it's pretty good. It's hard to protect though. Then we have Saya Yamabuki. On play, draw 2, discard 1. So this is gonna, if you play this, you're not playing the Kasumi combos. But you can drop like both Kasumi for this, honestly, and free up room for like healers and stuff like that. So this is gonna take up less space overall, but be probably a little less threatening. But also Saya is best girl, so there you have it. Climax combo is when you play the climax, which is exchange to promise. You can, if this is in front row, this gains 1,000 power and the following ability. When you reverse your battle opponent, pay 1 and discard a music character to deal 4 damage. So it's basically Xenon, but you have to reverse, and then you pay less of a cost. So not as good as Xenon, obviously. But you also dig for your climax, etc. Yeah, so it's not as good as stuff like Xenon, but it is this deck's equivalent. And it is still a fairly good finisher. 4 is a little bit of a high number of damage to be swinging for, but the one of the cards I'll show in a second can fix that a little bit. So here's your climax for it, Exchange Promise. It's a door. So it is a global 1k1, which is not great at level 3, but it also gives you another plussing trigger for when you do trigger climaxes. And if you're dropping the stock soul, then you're now playing 8 doors, which gives you 8 plussing triggers, which is something the deck wants. Also worth noting, not really, but for any of you interested in Standard, Exchanged Promise is also the name of the Marika pants for the blue level 3 Marika from Nisekoi. So these both just combo with the same climax. Shrug. Who knows? So this is level 3 I was talking about. Arisa Ichigaya. It has a climax combo, but I'm not gonna read that because you're never gonna play this climax. Don't, unless you're like waifu deck. So I'm not gonna ignore that text. Continuous, all your other music characters get 1500 power. It makes your stuff big. It makes it a lot easier for Saya level 3 to get her reverse, so you can burn 4. And that's like the only level 3 in this deck that needs a reverse. But it really helps that one. On play, you can rest one of your standing characters. You probably just rest herself. Like, I don't know why you would rest something else, but rest one of your standing characters. Your opponent chooses a climax from their own waiting room, and then you return everything else to your opponent's deck and shuffle. So you basically force them to refresh -1 climax. So they're probably still getting a couple of climaxes back into their deck, but it's probably hurting their overall compression. This is really good if they've like just recently refreshed and have maybe like 7 or 8 cards in their waiting room. and like one of them is a climax, and you just keep that climax out and send like 7 or 8 characters back to deck. Very situational that it's like really impactful, but in those situations it's really impactful. So you'd never really play this at more than like one, maybe 2 copies because it's a global 15 and hopes you're on reverse. But noteworthy effect. Noteworthy effect. Then if you just want like a really vanilla healer that's just generic and isn't going to eat up a lot of space, you have Swimsuit Orisa. It gains 500 for each of the music, so it's basically 11k on a full board. On play heal, and it has the same effect as the level 3 Darkness early play in Konosuba, where when you take damage and don't cancel it, you can pay 2, discard 1 to deal the same amount of damage to your opponent. So it can make it a little awkward for your opponent to try to finish you if they're also at level 3, because they might be taking any damage they deal to you. So if you like hit level 3 first and can deal some good damage to them, and they're at like 3-3 or 3-4 or whatever, these can be really problematic for them. But otherwise, the effect isn't amazing. It's obviously a lot more game changing on something like Darkness, where you can bring it out at level 2, and you're threatening that extra damage for a lot longer. But it's still just awkward to deal with. You're mainly just playing this as a healer if you play it. So again, here's the deck list I initially threw together. The biggest flex spot is probably the Taya level assist. That can be whatever. You can play this level 3 game. I think this level 3 game is probably better, but you can switch it to like a Saya based level 3 game if you want. That's probably still very good. Otherwise, I think the level 0 lineup is fine. I know a lot of people run like other level 0 lineups that are a little more just like tech based. The only one I'd consider putting in here is like the promo Sparkling Kasumi, where you can costless hand filter. No idea what I'd take out though, because a lot of these are just really good at like keeping your hand good so you can rush and build stock and whatnot. Though I guess if you did want to look at it from the perspective that you don't want to rush because you want to hit level 1 before your opponent does, then it probably wouldn't hurt to take some of these out and put in Sparkling Kasumis. You could take out like the Twinkle Star Kasumis maybe. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys like this deck and try it out. It's also, if any of you out there have like new players or like are trying to get new people into the game, obviously they're probably going to be drawn to whatever anime they like the most, but this is one of the cheapest decks out there to build right now, I feel like, just because 2 trial decks gets you most of the stuff in here, at least a lot of the really strong stuff. So this is a really good way to get people into the game as well. Yeah, deck's good. It's something that not a lot of decks can functionally do in English right now, where you just like wall all of your opponent's stuff, since AOT and Sword Art have very big wall breakers and make it hard for a lot of decks. But this one can still manage. It can manage. So yeah, hopefully we get some more tops out of this. I know the Japanese format is getting a second set for BanG Dream later this month, so it's possible we'll get that in the future as well. And this deck might change completely, might just get better, who knows. But yeah, I've been liking BanG Dream a lot lately, so try it out, comment, subscribe, let me know what deck you want to see next time, because it's getting a little hard to come up with ideas for this stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week on Connor's English Corner.